Welcome to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rose and Womble Realtor Paul Fuqua is here to share market facts, the fundamentals of selling, buying, owning, and improving your home, plus interesting experts. Now, here is Paul.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Real Estate PB&J Hour. Today we are going to discuss the general aspects of our local real estate market as our economy and the political situation in our country continues to impact the real estate market in very discernible ways. The purpose of this show is to share real estate news, advice, and experience to help you make sound decisions on one of the biggest investments you'll likely ever make or have made, and that is your home. And I'm Paul Fuqua. I'm a full-time professional realtor with Rose and Womble Realty. I've been lucky enough to help a lot of people, hundreds and hundreds of people over the past quarter century, sell their homes, find homes. They've sent me referrals, and I've been able to assist their friends and family also. And I'm joined today once again by Kim Pimento, who is the managing broker at the Greenbrier office of Rose and Womble. Kim, it's very nice to have you back.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be back.
Well, now last week we spent most of the show covering the elements of a property, which are regularly found to be areas of concern for any home inspector. And this hour will be in part consumed by a review of what we discussed last week, Bob Freck and I. And we can hopefully assist you as the elements of your house age. There should be some degree of regular maintenance, and we want to talk about that today. If you'd like to talk to Kim or me on the air, please call us at 757-497-1310. I'll repeat that, 757-497-1310. Now, we try and make this show relaxed and collegial. We want to be able to offer opinions and experiences which could conceivably help you in the process of selling or buying a home, or admiring what your friends have bought down the street, or visiting people who are thinking about buying a house or thinking about selling their house. My name is Paul Fuqua. You can always give them my name and tell them, call Paul at 497-1310 on Thursdays between 5 and 6, and we'll see what we can do to help them wield their way through the process of selling or buying real estate. In the meantime, we're going to talk about market forces. And one of the things that Kim excels at is accumulating significant information on the status of the housing market nationally. And then I'll try and give you some specific stats on the local market. They're rather cut and dried, but I think they give us a grist for the meal, or grist for the discussion that we're going to conduct later in the show on what's going on nationally and locally.
Right. Well, let's start with the rates.
Please do. Oh, God.
All right. These hot off the press. Got them right. Pulled them out. Holly Robinson from Advanced Financial pulled them off for me. Non-conforming, 6.625% with 1 point. Conforming 30-year, 7.125% with 0.875 points.
I'm going to stop you right there. This is the 40th show, and this is the first time. Yay. This is the first time I've heard a rate quoted at 7% or more.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And I can imagine what's going through people's minds out there. I know that I'm sitting back thinking, gee, I'm at 2 5/8, so I'm in great position. At the same time, I realize that there are people that this kind of rate increase are going to be affected significantly in the price that they can pay. But that should not move away from the market.
Right. Well, it's going to get, if it gets higher, they'd wish they bought now. But you know, we can get into that a little bit later. But anyway, so conforming 30-year conventional 7.125% with 0.875 points. Conforming investment, this is the one that really hurts, 7.625%. with 2.5 points. and that's 25% down based on a 740 credit score or higher.
Now remember, that's not a second home. That's an investment property that you're going to try and make some money. So all of a sudden, if you want to turn 20% ROI, then you've got a big chunk of money going out of your interest.
Yes.
All right. Sorry.
It's okay. And then the FHA, here we go, 7.125% with 1.125 points. VA, 6.625% with 1.375 points.
You know, I guess I know these are quoted, and they're quoted to us by Holly with Advanced Financial. But are they localized? I mean, do we take this as gospel if we're going to be moving to Oklahoma?
I think overall, I think it's probably vary a little bit, but I don't think very much.
Can local banks cut their own rates, or is it specifically important that they do it in order to have the Fannie Mae and Ginnie Mae backing? Do you know? I don't know.
I don't know if they can go up and down. I think, we know that how it's controlled, they're loaned money,
right?
By the rate banks,
right?
Who's controlled by the feds, who do the interest rate. So I think you have to calculate how they can make money. And I think as competitive as banks are with all the online industry, I bet rates are pretty standard.
Right. I'm wondering if they're flexible enough so half a point can make a difference. No, I'm not familiar with it. I've been very fortunate in my life other than when I was paying 17% at Prime way back in the business, and that was a killer. In my bank at that time, they took a stance, and these were commercial loans. They capped them. That's when I started borrowing money from the Japanese to pay the Germans for the German equipment I was buying. But anyway, what else have you got? Give me some good news.
Some good news. All right. Well, here's some good news. The current student loan debt in the United States is about $1.75 trillion.
Oh, that's good news. How much of it has been forgiven?
That amount just boggles me. About 45.3 million borrowers have student debt, and the average student borrows over $30,000 to purchase a bachelor's degree.
Now, is there a difference in? I guess they fund post-grad work too. I educated myself in part undergrad with NDEA loan, and it was like $400 a year, and I knew that as soon as I got out, I paid it off, which was a National Defense Education Act loan. But the idea of going into Hawk for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, unless I were going to become a doctor.
Or anything with a master's degree or above, you're going to go into Hawk if you stay in there. Yeah, and then a report by the National Association of Realtors showed that 29% of all student loan borrowers across the U.S. believe student loan debt impacted their ability to purchase a home.
Well, I would imagine it does. But what are the terms of a student loan debt? I mean, are they 30-year notes or 20-year notes? Or I've got to ask my son. He borrowed about $5,000 for his fifth year.
Right.
Because at that time, I said, hey, you decided to go through the fifth year. That's your problem, not mine.
Yeah.
Says, Dad, I said, I'm already footing the bill for this, but this is on you. And he's okay.
I don't really know the answer to that, if it's a 30-year or not.
I don't either.
Yeah, I just know that I got one when I was in college, and all my thing was just pay it off. I don't think I even paid attention.
Right.
So in Virginia, the total outstanding student loan debt is $44.2 billion, just in Virginia. Virginia students borrow over $37,000 on average to pay for tuition, and the average monthly payment is $293 a month. Congress just announced they will cancel up to $20,000 of student debt for Pell Grants recipients and up to $10,000 for non-Pell Grant recipients who have a yearly income of less than $125,000 or $250,000 for married couples. This will provide relief for 43 million borrowers across the White House, according to the White House.
Yeah. I'm terribly sorry, folks. I do not want to get into a political situation or discussion, but it seems rather egregious to me to ask people who didn't borrow money to finish school to pay that in the form of tax monies which is in essence what's happening, because this is being forgiven. It's being forgiven, but the lenders are still going to be paid. That's tax money. It's just incomprehensible.
Surely I was hoping they would strike some kind of deal that maybe they could just pay off the debt and not the interest or something. Those
are our dollars.
That's why I'm not in politics.
Yeah, I know. Nor am I. I've been there, done that, and I don't want to do that again. That's what I like about real estate. It's
oh yeah, real estate's not political at all. Is it, Paul?
It's we've had a couple of politicians.
Paul's not with us.
Just anyway. All right. Tell me something else about the national before I really start steaming over about.
The student loans?
I think student loans are wonderful, and I think that if you look at the universities, their rate of increase in the cost to attend universities has exploded, and it's so far outstrips inflation. And I remember I was a college basketball coach, and I remember the recruiting, and I have visited universities, and I've seen, as my son was being recruited, palatial accommodations being given the normal student. And I can understand why it costs so much, because these kids are living in a facility that is so far removed from what I was at Georgetown University, where we had felt like a quarter-mile walk to get to the shower that everybody shared. And I know my son John went to VMI, and he was still sharing showers, and they had no air conditioning in the dorms, and that was the Spartan life of the, quote, warriors. But I
think we still have some people out there that are willing to make sacrifices. And, I've kind of grown to like the younger generation. They're just living in a different world. It really is a different world.
Look there,
and I think we need to be open-minded as our age people looking at them, because they're.
I totally agree with you. There is a brilliance, and there is phenomenal intelligence and experiences. However, there has not been the degree of sacrifice required of the current younger generations that there was of the people who went to war in World War II and went to war in Korea and went to war in Vietnam and suffered losses.
We will never probably go back to heavy combat. I think it's always going to be more of a in the air strike. They're going to get our electricals. I think our wars are going to be different now.
We're
not going to actually physically go in as much. I think we still will, but
it's the threat of war that I think is more critical. And I think in my own experience that the most valuable thing a young person, a young American can go through is a year of service or 18 months.
Some countries do require that.
Well,
but
the Germans do, the Swiss do. We did. We had a draft, but it was inequitably enforced.
But again, it's a different type of world.
Well, anyway, okay, let's keep going. Enough of this.
We can't go.
I'm putting people to sleep. I'm sorry, folks.
Remember when, So, well, this is a good thing. In spring of 2020, 450,000 Virginians lost their jobs. Right now, we're on track to have the pre-pandemic job levels by the end of 2022. So I think that's good. Our unemployment rate is going down significantly. It spiked in 2020 at 14.7%, and today, and Virginia does stay lower than the national average. We're at 2.6%.
Well, Virginia has always been able to maintain a constant job growth, if you look at it. And we're going to discuss this a little later in the show, because of it. It's one of the strengths of where we live and why.
Right. And, of course, inflation's at its 40-year high, and the Federal Reserve, their target is 2%. Unfortunately, we're at 8.3% inflation, which that's what's really causing everything. It's really not the housing. I think it's for instance, gasoline. In May 2022, it went up 43.6%. Now we're only 23.8%, but still everything's going up. Used vehicles, new cars, groceries. Groceries 13.5%. That's a lot. That's a significant amount to some people.
Yeah. Well, what my wife did was she started buying one of these services where she would be able to go in and get specific meals because there are only two of us.
Right. Pre-cooked.
Yeah. Well, they weren't. We were kind of pre-cooked, but they would come with all the makings, and it was perfect service for two. So we didn't have all that leftover stuff. That's right. Well, what are we going to do with this? I don't want to have it again.
Right.
And it seemed to be very economical. And then as the summer waned,
I don't know if it would be economical for someone living on $30,000 a year, though. $50,000 a year.
No, I don't. Well,
that's the thing is, it's when you get to a certain hierarchy, you forget really quick what it was like to be back there.
Yeah, I can remember when I tended bar, and if I had $100 night, it was a cause for celebration.
Oh yeah, you were rich.
Oh, I was rolling in that. Anyway,
and of course they're just saying, and no one really. There's so many predictions that will, 19% say we'll do a soft landing, 49% say we're going to go into a recession in 2023, and 33% say it's a hard landing but not a recession. So I don't think anybody knows. It's hard to predict that, and so I think the answer is we don't know. We don't know.
Okay.
So.
I don't know if the national news. Maybe we ought to start leaving this alone. Yeah. Folks, because our task here is to be zeroed in on the local situation. We're going to get to that as soon as this break.
But the local is still where it follows.
Yeah.
It follows.
But we're generally slower to have the change, the monumental changes, because we are somewhat insular. But we'll get to that. We're going to take a break right now. You're listening to the Real Estate PB&J Hour with Realtors Paul Fuqua and Kim Pimento, and we're streaming live on MoneyTalk1310.com or live on 1310 AM, 100.9 FM. If you have any questions, you can reach us at 497-1310 or contact me at paulfuquarealtor.com. We'll take a short break and be right back at you with more stuff on the local market.
Now back to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rosenwomble Realtor Paul Fuqua gives you the fundamentals of real estate selling, buying, owning, and improving your home.
Well, thank you for staying with us. And if you're new, you're listening to the Real Estate PB&J Hour. I'm Paul Fuqua. I'm here with Kim Pimento, who is a managing broker at
giving y'all a whole bunch of really depressing news.
Yeah,
but it is from Virginia Association of Realtors, their economists, and in the National Association of Realtors.
Right.
And this report was done in October, so it's pretty fresh off the press. Can I say one more thing?
Please do.
Okay.
I mean, I'm staggered.
Let me brighten your day, Paul.
I need something. I'm going to go home and I was going to kick the dog, but I can't do that.
You have macaroni and cheese for days. Okay. We're just talking about
ramen noodles. Remember ramen noodles?
Oh, yeah. Add eggs. Yeah. So the rents in Virginia, that's something that, landlords should be really happy because there are definitely rental properties are in demand and rents are on the rise. But in Norfolk, it used to be in the second quarter of 2019, our average rent was $1,068. Now, today, in quarter two of this year, their average rent is $1,305. $1,305. So that's an increase of $200. But on the average, that's
a 20% increase.
Yeah, but I know just being in property management and still knowing a lot of property managers, if it's a nice property, it's gone up more. The percentage is higher than that. You can go, and then in Northern Virginia, it's of course it's higher. What used to be $1,800 is now about $2,557. So it's still $200, about the average rate.
Right. Well, rentals have become a commodity, and that's why we see national firms that are buying up resale properties and putting them into their portfolios as rentals. That's also why you're seeing so much housing, apartment-style housing coming on stream. I know just in the Norfolk and Virginia Beach area, there is significant development of large-scale apartment complexes, and the market's there. Right. This is a transient area, and we, at one time, we were confronted with lack of housing on a single-family basis, and that was the demand. Today's market has changed a little bit. We have people coming into the labor market who are not yet ready to make the commitment to a single family or a condo or ownership.
Yeah, and the interest rates is one reason,
right.
But paying rent is paying all interest.
Yeah.
You still have to kind of weigh the factors how long you'll be there. And probably these rates aren't going to be there forever. I think probably maybe another year and a half, and they'll mark, and you can refi,
yep.
If you choose to. But this is an interesting thing. Inventory on rentals has also begun to increase, with 31,575 apartment units currently under construction in the state.
In the state of Virginia.
In the state of Virginia. Most of this construction is taking place in Virginia's largest metro areas, which are Northern Virginia, Richmond, and Hampton Roads.
Right.
And every time you look around here, they're popping up apartment buildings.
Yes.
It's just amazing.
Well,
how quick they're going up. That's even more amazing.
They have a formula, and the cost to build a building is shared over a number of units rather than one. And single-family housing has always been the most expensive element, the most expensive type of housing to build. That's why there's a great. I
would like to look up the codes for an apartment building, because even the lovely ones they're building, they're still a little noisy. You can hear your neighbors sometimes. I just wonder why there's not stricter codes. But because
that's more quality of life than safety. The issues really are fire protection, the being able to provide accessibility for those of us who are not fully capable of dealing with the norms of apartment living, or for that matter, single-family living. But let's go back.
Or they just don't see that the people are going to stay there that long, maybe.
Yeah. And
because our younger generations, they are about quality of life. That's what they are. It's really not the money that drives them. It's the quality of life, giving, helping. They're just... That's what is important to them.
Well, let's talk for a minute now about what the local real estate, single family, and condo or attached market is. Because get me off the high horse in terms of student loans and all that other stuff.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Am I going to be? Oh God,
yeah,
I don't want to.
I worked on this afternoon. It was really interesting. I've been looking, but let's just talk about people. The reason that the housing market is the way it is, the interest rates are just really crushing our buying power. And this is a prime example. Move-up buyers in Hampton Roads, which is local.
Right.
Okay, in August 2021, they, with a yearly income of $103,000, their purchasing power would have been $525,000 home.
Yes.
Okay, in March 2022, they went down to $480,000.
Yes.
August 2022, $429,000, which was at 5.1%, and I bet right now they're probably into the threes.
Yes.
So that's huge. That's a lot of that gap presents a lot of real estate.
Well, that
buys a lot of real estate.
And it also prompts what we're seeing in the market. I think yesterday we discussed that there was a larger number of reductions in price than new listings, and that's very unusual. But the expectations of high aggressive pricing have resulted in people having to adjust their outlook on what the property they're bringing on the market is worth. I know I have two that come on today, and both of them were initially going to be priced higher, and my clients sat down with me, and we decided that we would not push the envelope at all, but rather offer the properties at the average for the neighborhood, rather than exceeding it, which was what the norm was up until 4 months ago.
Right. Okay, and back to you, Paul.
Okay, what kind of news do I have? Well, as of today, there were 4,027 active residential listings, of which 3,272 are single families and 754 attached, which are condos and co-ops and townhouses, etc. These are on the MLS. Yet last week our counts were 3,925 total, 3,227 single, and 696 attached. that represents, those numbers on a totality represents an increase of 2.5% on a week-to-week comparison. And we're not going to see that rate of growth in inventory diminish, other than the seasonal diminution that occurs because we're coming up into Thanksgiving and then we have the holidays. Now, the number of properties actually available but not under contract right now is 3,134, which is an increase of the princely sum of 24 from last week's 3,110. That's not quite a 1% increase. It's actually 0.7%. The number of actual closed sales last week in October was 436, and as of today, according to the MLS, we had closed in October, reported as closed, 1,099. Now, my numbers I pull them off the MLS, and I don't include land sales and other things that are a little more unique. But we had a total sales of homes in September of 2,759, August 2,939, July 2,826, June 3,984, May 3,339, and April 3,706. Now,
so it went down and is now coming back up?
It's coming back up in terms of hopefully in terms of the sales. We are in that period of the year when people who have to move into the area are looking to buy. And that's largely a part of the military and the industrial complex that exists in our area.
Yeah, but closed sales represent what we sold 2 months ago.
That's correct.
Yeah, 30 days to 60 days ago.
Right. Yeah, but remember, there are a lot of contracts that are entered that dissipate. They don't close, where the greatest percentage is in the for sale by owners. And none of these numbers reflect for sale by owners.
Right.
Where the statistics say about...
I don't see as many as there were in 2008. No. Not near, before 2008. I don't see near as many. And
quite honestly, as the rates have changed and as the market stays so volatile, I think the for sale by owner, which is an admirable task, but the for sale by owner is going to be truly at a disadvantage because he or she, unless they are intimately involved in the process on a regular basis, don't have the reach for the lender referrals and the packages that can be constructed. And there are many times where a deal that on its face doesn't look as good as another one may well be a greater financial return to the seller. I represent a majority of the sellers of that. I do buyers, but I enjoy the marketing the product. If you would like more of these statistics, please feel free to call in 497-1310, 497-1310. Now, how much time Dino? We can go into the next thing, right? Okay, great. Well, what we want to do right now is do a quick review of last week's show topic, which was centered on the elements that seem to be most problematic in most home inspections. And Bob Freck and I discussed at length the number of things that we found to be recurring, and we wanted to bring these back. And I know you can chime right in, Kim, at any time, but I pulled up the key ones. And the most common problem in resale properties that we've found in inspections lie in GFIs and GFCIs. That's the ground fault interrupters. Yeah. Double taps in the circuit panel box. In the breaker box.
Yeah, reverse polarity.
Yeah, and over and under fused circuits, and
not in junction boxes.
Yes. Oh, no covers. Yes. No, especially in the crawl or in the attic. Yeah. And these are safety issues, and I think we see them more often because it's so easy to do as a do-it-yourselfer. You know, I can run a line and run it through on the crawl and drill a hole and suddenly create an outlet here or there, but I'm not doing it to code, and that's what I think are the big problems that we see in that. And inspectors know; they start looking immediately. And the thing we did discuss at length was what a homeowner should keep a close eye on, just for his own well-being and for the successful enjoyment of his home. You always keep an eye on what's going on with your hot water heater.
Yeah, especially if it's in the attic.
Yes.
I would replace it every 10 years just for fun of it, because that is damaging when that breaks.
And people ask, well, why do so many builders put the hot water heater in the garage? Well, because if it springs a leak, it's not going to flood the house. If in the attic, you have a pan and you have a drain, but that drain gets filled up. And
there's
gets
2 floors for it to sink in.
Yep, and it can be a disaster. Now, one thing I just found out in my house is I have one of these big tankless hot water heaters that is also the form of the furnace, because it pumps out all this hot water, and we run it through a loop in front of the air handler, and it's very efficient for us in updating the heating and cooling in an older house. And we sprang a leak almost a year ago, and I brought the company in, and they said, well, number one, you didn't install this. I said, I know. That's one of the reasons I bought the house. They said, well, the lady who did it, it was 2 years before you bought it, and it hasn't been serviced. And I said, what? Wait a minute, it's tankless. I don't have to. Yeah, you should. And I think I pay them $125 a year to come in and drain this thing and service it so that I don't spring any more leaks. They're so sophisticated in their valving that it's very, very important that the system be flushed out and have a trained tech know what's going on for you.
Yeah, I did not know you had to flush those. That's very good information. And the other thing is, every time I've had someone have to have work done on those, they're extremely expensive.
Yes, it is.
And I'll hear a lot, they didn't plumb it right. So I think you have to be careful who you let install those.
Well, what we did, I initially called in my standby, my great guy who's been my plumber for 20 years, and he came in. He said, I'm not touching it, Paul. It's too sophisticated. We've not been trained in it. Besides which, the manufacturers certify techs. And if somebody else goes in there and fools with it, their warranties and
is deleted.
Yeah. So I brought in climate makers who'd installed it for the previous owner, and they were very, very thorough in correcting the problem. Mm-hmm. And they were on the phone constantly with the manufacturer to make certain that every step they took. Now, in the meantime, I'd had an inch of water in this where it was located, which was a converted garage that we made into a bedroom / guest room / man cave / a swimming pool because of the tankless.
Well, you know what? Another thing, and this happened to me recently. If you hear something, check it out. Mm-hmm. I sat there and thought maybe the flap on my toilet wasn't closing, so I would jiggle the handle, and think, that really didn't work. Because I heard this fine little. Come to find out, it had a leak. Over 150 gallons were pumped out from underneath my house.
Oh my gosh!
And that wasn't all of them. We got wet insulation now, and so I dried it out with the fan. Now I'm going to have a contractor come back in there. But people, I think we let things go.
Yep.
And if you hear something that's not normal, go get up and go check it out.
And if you don't want to go into the crawl space, and I don't like going into crawl spaces because I'm somewhat of a claustrophobe, but I will in a panic, have somebody out there.
It'd have to be a really big panic for me. I don't know if I could do that.
Well, one of these days I'll tell a story about a home inspector and a snake in the crawl space. But
I'm sure they're there.
Yeah, they're there. So the elements that homeowners should keep an eye on: one, the hot water heater, including tankless hot water. Your HVAC, put it under a contract for review, and with a reputable firm.
But the problem with that is when they get busy, and right now we're all short on staff.
Right.
Everybody's short on staff, is they can't come out. So if you do a contract, you need to have them come out kind of those in between season, in between winter and spring, and in between fall and summer.
Have them check your furnace at late July.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your air conditioning. Well, the problem is they can't turn the air conditioning
freeze up
in the winter. But gutters and downspouts, those are important to keep an eye on.
Oh, and the other thing is, if your house is wrapped, that doesn't mean the wood behind it doesn't rot. And I think that really gets a lot of people is you need to check to make sure that the wood behind that wrapping has not rotted.
But it will.
It will.
If water enters, remember, I had a drive-it house or an EFIS house, and water penetrated. Well,
the EFIS house.
No, they're not that bad.
I think they're pretty to look at.
And if they're done properly, they don't have a problem.
Yes, that was a nice product. Very insulative, I guess, if that's a word.
Yes. Best insulation system going.
Yes.
And that's one of the problems with it, because it doesn't allow the exchange of air through it. Anyway.
But testing is expensive.
Yes.
I think I heard an agent say that they had a kind of a large house test. It was $2,500.
Well, there are so few competitors. If you go back 10 years, there were 5 or 6 firms around. Now there aren't that many. And it is very labor intensive. And they have to get up and they have to do the probes underneath every window to see if there's a moisture content.
Yeah, they have to seal up the probe areas.
Yep, and that's important too because it's got to match the color. The other elements that we discussed is how to prepare for an inspection. You've sold your house or you're going to have a pre-list inspection. Make certain the light bulbs are in so all the light fixtures work. Make certain that the windows open and close. Double check your fuse box or your circuit breaker panel to make certain there aren't things that look strange.
And make sure the inspector can have access to all the outlets, because they will say some of the house was non-accessible.
Right.
And it was like, move it.
Yeah, you can do that.
But they don't move furniture.
Yeah, no, they don't. And they're not intrusive. And then what constitutes, one of the issues we discussed, what constitutes acceptable performance in heating and cooling systems. I never got it clarified what constitutes.
I think it's like a 19 to 20 degree
It's 14 to 22 degree differential in the cooling. But I never got a reading on what constitutes an acceptable heating. I guess it just blows hot air. I don't know. But we'll figure that out for the next show. And the issue we touched on but never made headway through was whether or not inspectors look for compliance with flood insurance mitigation efforts. And they don't, to my knowledge. That's
way out of their jurisdiction, I would think.
And the last issue that Bob and I talked about was whether or not a seller should accompany and or dispute an inspector as he wends his way through the house during an inspection.
I don't think he should be present. I don't think that's fair to the buyers. Now, I do think he should be on call, standby for the listing agent, who should come for at least the wrap up.
Yes.
Because I think there's some things I've seen inspectors say that this light switch doesn't work. Well, it's because it's tied to the one down the hall, and you had to do something funny for it.
That prompted us into the Christmas light discussion last week, and we won't go through that again.
Dispute the findings, definitely.
Yes, but not in front of the buyer or the buyer's agent, because they are
right.
Not. But be aware that you can't dispute it because of your opinion. You got to dispute it based on facts. We got to take a break.
Does everybody follow that rule, Paul?
You're listening to the Real Estate PB&J Hour. I'm Paul Fuqua, and I'm here with Kim Pimento, and this is Money Talk 1310 AM and 100.9 FM. We'll see you in a couple minutes.
Now back to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rosenwomble Realtor Paul Fuqua gives you the fundamentals of real estate selling, buying, owning, and improving your home.
Well, thank you for coming back and listening. And if you're new to this channel and this discussion, you're listening to the Real Estate PB&J Hour here on 1310 AM, 100.9 FM, or moneytalk1310.com. Now, if you have any questions for me or Kim Pimento, please call us at the station's number, 497-1310, area code 757-497-1310. As always, I'm going to suggest that you subscribe to and listen to past episodes of the PB&J Hour at your convenience on the YouTube channel, the Real Estate PB&J Hour. You can always turn us off. You can always skip fast forward and get rid of stuff that you don't want to listen to, but it may be worthwhile. I like the idea that you can subscribe and at no cost, so that you will be kept aware of what's going on. Now, what we've been discussing a variety of things that are wide-ranging, and we just touched briefly on the elements that were discussed last week as being problematic in home inspections. Now we want to talk about what our local market is like and why we as realtors feel strongly that the real estate market here will continue to be a wise area for, one, our employment. I make money by helping people sell their houses and buy houses. But more importantly, why it would behoove you as a prospective buyer to buy even now at these higher rates, and why sellers should not be afraid of putting their houses on the market. I'm going to ask Kim. We've both been in this business for enough time that we've seen an awful lot, both pro and con, about the market. What do you see are the strengths? And we've outlined some of this stuff in the past. The
strengths of the market?
Yeah. What makes Hampton Roads?
Hampton Roads.
Yeah.
I just think Hampton Roads offers so much variety that people want to retire here. They might have lived here during their military career, but just think about, I moved here from Texas, never been here, and my jaw dropped open when we stayed down at the ocean front the first night. I was going, oh my gosh, we live here? I was so excited because all the street vendors were out. But with this area, you can go to Norfolk and feel like you're in the metropolitan area and have all the arts, and that gets that feel. Go over to Virginia Beach, you're in this beautiful ocean area with beaches and restaurants, and then the town center, and then go up down to Chesapeake, and you're in a beautiful suburbs with beautiful houses, and they're getting to be known for their schools. You're right next to North Carolina. You go down there and eat barbecue, and then Suffolk is beautiful and more country. I just think that, and then Portsmouth, very historic, has some beautiful areas out in the Churchland area, out in the out towards the western part of Suffolk. So I think we just offer so much variety, and if you haven't driven over in Phoebus and Hampton and all that area over there, that area has just really changed for the better.
It's amazing.
So we have some great areas, especially if the waterfront is just beautiful here.
Well, I think jobs create housing markets, and we have jobs here. We have the military. We have the world's largest naval base. We have tremendous shipping, world's deepest natural seaport. There's tourism because we're at the confluence of the Chesapeake Bay and the James River and the Elizabeth River and the Atlantic Ocean. It's called Hampton Roads because that's a body of water that defies any other description.
And the shipyards, I know it goes along with the shipping, but we also have, construction of ships and submarines. And, I think that, our medical field in the industry is just booming here.
There's going to be always, because of the nature of the area and the confluence of the water, there's always going to be the appeal. We're seasonal. We actually have a winter. We have a fall. We have an extended fall, an extended spring, and then we have a pretty brutal summer. But our winters can be enjoyable. We actually have snow occasionally, and there are nor'easters and things come in where we can complain. I mean, can you imagine living someplace where nothing happens in terms of weather? No. What do you have a conversation
sometimes
with?
On the weekends, really, if you look, of course, I'm not married, so I'm out about a lot, but there's so much to do on the weekends. Sometimes I can't even choose.
Right.
We have so much. Like tonight's the Neon Fest, and tomorrow this weekend in Norfolk, and they have beautiful arts and exhibits, and the Chrysler's open, and it's just some awesome things.
Well, we have 7.
And the boardwalk down in Virginia Beach, the art.
Yeah, we have 7 jurisdictions. And every one of them has something going on. The Greek festival is going on.
Oh yeah, the largest revenue of food festival.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
phenomenal. And I know Greg Bickaveris is a spokesperson for the Greek festival, and he always says, "Boy, you got to come over and eat some Greek." And every day I do.
It's good.
It's like 10 pounds.
Yeah, no, I had to miss it this year, and that really heartbreaking.
It's
because
running
I
this
love
weekend,
it.
Isn't it? Or is
no, it was last weekend.
It was last weekend. Okay, yeah, we were camping. That's another story. But this area has we have a strong labor market, in large part because of the military. People retire, they've gone into the Navy or the Marines at the age of 20, and they put 20 years, they're 40 years old, and they come out and they're trained, they're responsible, they have a stake in society, and they are targets for recruiters, corporate recruiters, in all areas of their endeavors, from management down to on the production floor.
Yeah, I think we're also close to a lot of cool areas too. Yeah. D.C., the Eastern Shore is beautiful.
Yep.
And the Eastern Shore, we're close to Pennsylvania and North Carolina and South Carolina. I mean, it's just kind of a cool spot to be.
It's at the same time, when I first moved here, I was thunderstruck by the idea of it being backwater. I mean, really, it's not an accessible area. Not easily.
What are you talking about?
Well, the Hampton Roads area is almost
backwater.
I
mean the Back Bay area.
No, backwater. It's where life is a little slower.
You think Hampton Roads is backwater?
Well, I moved here from Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Where I grew up, and I moved
here from San Angelo, Texas. Well, believe me, it's not backwater here.
Well, I mean, I'm comparing a major metropolitan area, and I had clients in New York, so I was up there with some regulation. And so when I moved here,
perception,
yes, and it was like, wow, this is pretty cool, And I have to confess, we bought a house on the golf course, and we'd been in Chevy Chase, Maryland, which is a village, and I was struck by how quiet it was until there was this huge onslaught of cricket noise, and I'd never heard crickets in that volume before in my life, and I thought there was something wrong with the house and the neighborhood, and we were being inundated by locusts. But no, they were crickets, and it took me about 2 weeks to become accustomed to it. I'm a city snob. I think I've said my yard where I grew up was the width of a lawnmower, and it occupied the space between the curb and the sidewalk. And on the side of our house, it occupied from the side of the house to the sidewalk, because we had 0 lot lines, and we were on a corner. So I had doubled the lawn thing, and I couldn't charge more than $2 in those days. Because it took so little time.
$2 back in those days.
Well, wait a minute, it's not that smart.
Paul, you've been a salesman all your life, Paul.
Hey, I grew up having to sell subscriptions to newspapers, and I was a paper boy, and I mowed grass.
You probably walked 5 miles to get there?
No, I rode a bus.
Oh, okay.
But it was to the playground. It was 2.5 miles to the playground. I'd catch the bus, run home, and then run back for baseball practice, or football practice, or whatever. But there's still land available here.
Yes, there is.
And that's the driving force behind new construction. There's still opportunity for large-scale builders to come in.
We have to go mainly west.
Yes.
I mean, we're kind of ocean-locked, I guess.
And we have had the large-scale builders come in. Pulte was here. I was on a focus group for Pulte. Ryan Holmes is here. They're any one of a variety of major national
Horton
firms.
Homes, I think, are coming in.
Yep. And these folks come in because they realize that this is a strong economic center and will continue to grow, and the land prices are still, I don't want to say depressed, but they're still affordable.
Well, it also... And there's nothing wrong with big builders, don't get me wrong, but they also were a little bit of the reason that we couldn't get supplies, because they've got so much clout and money. They order their supplies a year and a half,
right.
Because they know what they're going to build.
Right.
So they order it, which, the smaller builders can't afford to do that.
I wish that I'd been here when R.G. Moore was building so many pieces of property throughout the area.
Was he huge? I thought he was the local.
He was local, but he was huge. He was like
an Ainsley or Chesapeake Homes.
Oh no, he was bigger. I mean, R.G. Moore built what I want to say Level Green. He built the stuff out there off of Dam Neck and General Booth and
But we've got
Princess
some big
Anne.
Herndon. He's done a lot of big buildings.
What R.G. Moore did was to build a piece of product that was very economically priced and very economically built.
Right. But
and
different time period again, Paul. With different time period.
I know, but he was the scourge of other builders in many regards, and RG made housing affordable across the area, more so than his competitors. And he was universally disliked by a great many people. I never met the man. His son, Donnie, was a friend of mine, but he unfortunately died. He was the opposite of his dad. Anyway, we have how many minutes, Dino? 2.5. We have 2.5 minutes. What can we talk about for 2.5 minutes, other than the fact that we don't know who we're going to have on as a guest next week, but we'll have somebody, so that you don't have to just listen to my droning. I would really enjoy having people call in and or go on to the YouTube channel.
You know what we forgot about, one of the main attractions here is tourism.
Yes. That's huge.
Yes. Here.
It keeps the property tax rates lower than they would be otherwise. You start looking at it, you've got charter fishing, you've got a beach that is the Atlantic Ocean, you have the beach that's the Chesapeake Bay, you've got the one of the eighth wonder of the world, the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. If you haven't driven across that recently,
the one that Tom Hanks blew up.
Yeah.
In Mission Impossible.
Oh, yeah. Was it Tom Hanks?
Not Tom Hanks, sorry, Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise.
Oh, okay. Did he blow that one up? I thought
that's
it was
the one
the
supposedly.
Keys. Oh, okay. And if you've never been to the Sunrise Beach, that place over there at the end of the Bay Bridge Tunnel, just on the left-hand side up there where that crazy-looking motel is, there's a great beach back there that's right on the bay. Anyway, we're going to start to close now. I got 1 minute to prattle on and on. This is the end of the 40th episode of the Real Estate PB&J Hour. We hope you enjoyed it and learning a little bit more about investment opportunities and your rights as a buyer or seller. And hopefully you'll remember to call me, Paul Fuqua, at 757-449-7463, 757-449-7463 when you want an appraisal of your property for its marketability. And if in reward, I have available to you digital of our 31 tips to sell your home. It highlights proven strategies I use to sell houses in the area. Just call me or go to paulfuquarealtor.com. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. Good night, Kim. Thank you again.
You're welcome.